Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. We'll just see how many people. Oh, we get a few already, so good for that. Um, this is really just for people to. There's been a few people saying, "Can we just have a little Q&A thing?" I'll just try it out, see what happens. Because as you've seen, I've seen put quite a few videos on about certain things, aspects that are asked about. And it's difficult. It's a difficult one to do on YouTube because it's difficult to advertise it as such. I've got my Twitter thing, but and normally I put it across on Twitter and YouTube. But to be honest, I wanted to like push a little bit more support on my YouTube channel because that's really where it's helpful to do videos and stuff, video tutors and answer people's questions and as honestly as I can. And just to give you those people who don't know, I came out of the police after 30 years and I did I was born and brought up in Cornwall. I had a quite a nice background, no money, but we had loads of land, and I had a whale of a time growing up, riding bikes around and making pipe bombs out of explosives and stuff like that. And that was by the end of 12, by the age of 12, and I was doing. When I was meant to be going to school, well, I went to school, but I also jumped out my window at 3 in the morning when I was about 14 to go rabbiting with my mate, and he had some lurchers, and we used to just spend all night rabbiting and just adventures, real sort of Tom Sawyer type stuff. Really, it was just brilliant. And as long as you were home by 6:30, that's all that mattered really for dinner. That's all that people cared about. So welcome everyone who's just joining. I'm just explaining. This is just a bit of a Q&A, and it's literally for anything and everything that you want to ask. And I had a bit of something on reserve just to let people know so it would be half interesting for the three people that were left listening. But it's just I get an awful lot, and literally every day I'm speaking to new recruits or people who are thinking about joining and don't really know what it's like. What is it really like? I hear a lot in the media what they like when you actually go in. What are the cops like? Because I remember 33 years ago when I joined as a special in Newquay, and as a special constable, you are fully fledged police officer. All the powers that a police officer has, the arrest powers and things like that. But it's voluntary, you see. So you get sort of you get your expenses paid for and that side of things. But it's just a brilliant way that I found of getting a taster to see if the police was for me and if I was for the police, really. But you didn't know, did you, what happens when you go down the cells? And now it's all CCTV anyway, but did they give people a bit of a slapping? I don't know, That's what, and these are the things that you really want to know. And this is what people always find it quite refreshing that I'm quite happy to say exactly how it is. And ultimately, I would also say, if you want to, if you're thinking about joining the police now, and you think that I'm going to be saying, "Oh, don't do it. It wasn't like in my day," and all that, do it. Do it. There's quite a few people older in service and older in their careers, and they just think, "Oh, I wanted to join the police," and I think, "Oh, it means a big pay drop," and those are the things you've got to weigh up. And it is a lot of pressure, but you don't get that satisfaction, I'm assuming, from other jobs that are very necessary. I need my car insurance, but if I sold car insurance, or I was thinking of there was a champion snooker player, I'm not thinking, would I want to go through the end of my life thinking that's all I ever did? Do you know what I mean? And there's the most selfish thing in the world for me is to do something nice for somebody else. And I was saying to someone today, somebody said this, I can't remember where, but it's just brilliant, is that when you actually help someone else, you get a good feeling. A little old lady who's smiling when she was just crying. She was crying before, because she'd been burgled and she felt so vulnerable, and you were able to bring it into perspective. You were able to tell her, look, got a fair good idea who these are, and these are little oiks who are no fear for you, but we will do all we can to get them back. And it was just that, spending that time and chatting with them, and that's quite a selfish feeling, really, because I'm doing it, so I feel good. So bonus, really, isn't it? I see quite a few questions going in. Jenny, hello. Hello. In final vetting stage for Adrian and Somerset now, so something on NDM would be great. Yeah, Adrian, I'll do something on NDM for you. It was something that I needed to do. I'll just let people know really what I did in my career first. So it'll give you a flavour of what I was what I was actually doing. So let's put it on that. So that screen's a bit bigger. This one here, so response officer. So everyone, when you join the police, everyone joins as a response officer. You've either got certain levels of degree or you haven't got a degree, and so you're taught within that force the training to do that degree. And some people are doing direct entry CID, but you basically get told core skills first of all, and quite rightly so. And if you've got a criminology degree, then you fast track it slightly more, but by year or so. And if you've got another degree that's something in David Beckham studies or something, you do short track it slightly, because it means you are capable of taking lots of information on, assessing it, and doing all that sort of thing, which something I never did. I never went to university. I didn't even do A levels. And then of course, if you got like me and you had nothing, then you get trained within that, and it takes you slightly longer. But that's response officer is the best job, because you're doing everything and anything there. And I then specialised in firearms officer, that's armed response officer. I was on a call out system initially on a pager 25 years ago, and then traffic officer. So dealing with, and that's where my book title came in, Firearms and Fatals, really, because I found that that's what I was. Well, what do you do, Harry? What do you do in the police? Well, I used to be on response. I was a response sergeant in Plymouth for 3 years, but then I sort of do, I'm response now, but we're dual rolled here. So I do firearms and fatals, really, the two Fs. And that's where that came from. ARV is armed response vehicle. And we call ourselves ARVs, even though we're technically AFOs, authorised firearms officers. And TPAC is the smashy things off the road. Very little damage, to be honest, because you learn on the runways. And you're of high speed, very close, and you gradually build up to it. And it's tactical pursuit and containment. So it's where you're using tactical contact. I've had to ram a couple of cars off the road that were imminently going to go head on and kill people. So I had to decide, and I used my car as a battering ram on that occasion. Occasionally has to happen, and some of these things are quite high speed. Advanced driving, of course, in Devon and Cornwall, we were advanced driving because we've got so much land to travel. And we would be doing very high speeds every day. I'd be doing 135, 140, and between 150 to 250 miles a day. If you're in response, then you're going to be doing a lot less and a lot less speed, but you're still going to be very busy indeed. Probably busier, if I'm honest. Team leader, operational firearms commander. So I was like, that's basically team leader is what I'm calling it. Operational firearms commander. Above them, you've got the tactical firearms commander and strategic firearms commander. That's the sort of the hierarchy of armed response jobs. That could be deadly knife with a knife, aggression with a knife. That's guns, that side of things. And then firearms tactics advisor. So I'd swallowed the manual and I could tell people, I'm telling the bosses, rub shoulders with an awful lot of top bosses, and they are relying on you to keep them out of the shite. Okay, so it's really, really important stuff. Pursuit tactics advice. So again, spontaneous and pre-planned is okay. These are the scenarios. What do you suggest? What are our options? Where are we putting our resources? Where are we actually going to reduce the possibility of causing injury or death to other people, be it the suspect or, even more important, members of the public, and then of course ourselves, the police. And VIP protection I did as well, which was just amazing, really. That was just amazing stuff. But another 5-week course. If you think policing is like 2 years, probably learning laws and regulations and discussing scenarios and doing practical stop search checks and dealing with confrontation and learning how to bring the level up and down, and just learning, and if you're older, that will give you more experience because you're probably used to dealing with that a little bit more in your life. But excuse me. But then you've got on armed response, it's now a 13-week course, a VIP 5-week course, standard driving course 4-week course, advanced driving course 4-week course, 2-week course, VIP course. I did so many courses. I was going to be really good at something one day, but I managed to stay on frontline for all of my service. So 30 years, basically driving fast cars, shooting guns, and having a whale of a time, bashing in lots of doors of naughty people. Good stuff. And I was just saying, gosh, we've got really good stuff coming in. So I'm going to just So remember, NDM, we're going to do that. You're very clever chap. No, you see, that's it. You see, and that's my method. I'm not certainly not academic. I would never say I was academic. That's why I never went for inspector. I just stayed at sergeant because I knew I was probably a better sergeant than I was a PC because I know some phenomenal police constables. Sergeant's the next one up, and I thought, yeah, I'm good at that because I'm good at dealing with people and getting a group of people of various different abilities and characters to work together and have a happy team, which is what I wanted. But they were professional and they knew they had to buckle down when they needed it. So that was the good thing. And I knew I was all right at that. And I knew because the bosses were always asking me to do stuff, which meant, oh, okay. So that was quite job satisfaction. Me and Arthur are okay. Arthur is fine, thank you very much. Arthur Dog is the Border Terrier Jack Russell Cross, which I've got. He is a sterling chap. I taught him to track. Dave Wardell from Finn's Law, he taught me how to... it wasn't him, in fairness. It was another guy, another dog handler from Devon Corman. He told me how to teach him to track. And there's a YouTube footage, YouTube on Arthur Dog, track police. Search that on YouTube and you'll find his track. It looks ridiculous. It's a Border Terrier on a long leash chasing a criminal, which happens to be my son. So Lee Jacobs. Hi Harry, I'm a cadet. I thought it was a celeb then. A cadet in Torquay. I really want to join the police, but I have been in trouble with the police not too long ago. Can I still join? Yes, you can. It depends what it is, because I think the police and everyone system realizes and society realizes we all mess up now and then, and sometimes it's just whether you got caught when you were shoplifting as a kid or whether, or you got drunk for the first time and you were a bit of an arse and you ended up arguing a bit too much and you got yourself arrested or whatever. So all that is taken into consideration. If you've got a repeated issue, or whether it's a serious offence, then of course not. We don't want your sort around here. I suggest if you're in the cadets, then that's just a brilliant learning ground that you've had. You've just probably grown up very quickly with that. And I think a lot of forces say you probably have to wait 5 years. It seems forever if you're a cadet. Just check the details, but don't be embarrassed about it. A lot of people have done silly things in their past, and it's not the end of their careers as you know it, okay? And the best thing is when you're in all your applications, be honest, put it out there, and you'll be surprised how many times I get asked that question. Lee, you're not alone, my friend, so don't worry. You can always mess up once, just don't mess up twice, yeah? Bring back the heavy-handed police. Yeah, well, there is that, Lynn. I think I put a tweet out today that people talk about the long-term solutions. We should find out the root of the cause of why people are like this and all that, and they sort of forget that actually plenty of people were given those equal opportunities that they had, and they decided not. They did have a choice. It's much easier for people to make choices, such as myself, who had a stable background and I had lots of support, so it was easier for me to stay out of trouble. I wanted to join the police very early on, so I purposely realised my mates are going off and I'm not entirely comfortable with that. So, even down to when I was hunting rabbits, when my mates said, oh, we'll go over this land, I said, no, that's poaching, I can't do that. And he was like, what? I said, no, I can't not get in the police now, when I was like 14, 15 then. So I just could do it on my land, that's all. On my land, that sounds very grand. We had no money. It was all collar and no cuffs, a tiny little cottage with six of us in it. But it was the best. The Cornish cliffs were my playground. But yeah, so yes, Tom, you did hear me on Jeremy Vine because I did a comment. Oh yeah, the tweet I said, long-term, you need both. You need long-term and short-term solution. You need repercussions. You need to have sense of responsibility that you can't just go and do things. Society, if you want to live in a society that offers you safety and security and an NHS, you have to play by some of the rules. Yeah, you can't just do your own thing. And if you do your own thing, society will punish you. But it's no good if it doesn't punish you, if it doesn't show those repercussions. And so, yeah, and I don't care if you don't, if you go to prison and you don't get rehabilitated. It's irrelevant, all right? If you go in there, bonus if you're rehabilitated, but you're going to be the one to decide whether you want to be rehabilitated or not. That's it. Somebody else isn't going to force you. So in the meantime, give the public a break and be in custody and locked up. And because we knew when the burglars were coming out, that's it, 5 burglaries a week at least. Misery. 5 more people, misery. And when you've sat next to an elderly lady blubbing her eyes out because her late husband's medals were stolen by some little shite who's flogged them for 20 quid, that makes you very angry. And you start losing that empathy. And it could be that kid's done that because he's been brought up in an abusive relationship, But at the end of the day, I know people who have still, and they joined the police, they took a choice. And we don't need to show that we need to accept it, really. But Jeremy Vine, he was Jeremy Clarkson. I did a tweet him because he was saying, "Oh, it's bloody an accident. We all know it's an accident. Why did I have to shut the roads forever?" And I did a WordPress is the blog that I used to do. I don't do it now, but it's still live and whatever. And I did one on dealing with fatal road traffic collisions because I was a senior investigating officer of serious and fatal road traffic collisions. So I attend the scenes, literally look into the eyes of the body, really, so I can have some sort of connection. It wasn't just another statistic for me, that I could actually say, right, this is a person. Let me remind myself of that, and then you're trying to get closure for the family, and you're trying to find the evidence. You've got to. And what I was trying to explain is, it's all very well knowing what's happened, but you've got to prove what's happened. And people went to jail because they were smoking cannabis, rolling a spliff on their steering wheel, and crashed and head on into a completely innocent family and killed them. Now, there should be repercussions for that. Now, without the evidence and without stopping the whole thing and all the evidence on the road in the vehicle, forensics, you're not going to prove it, and they're going to walk free. And guess what they're going to do in future? So it's things like that. So I was on Jeremy Vine was very good, actually. He was very good on that, and I was on Jeremy Vine Radio 2, and then on the TV on the phone thing. They asked me to come on. And it's just to give another perspective of why we do it, because I think if we all thought of our own loved ones and wives, daughters, sons, and they were killed, and basically all what happened was they're swept up in the back of a lorry in a van, and the road was opened again, and they went, "Oh, it's just an accident, isn't it?" I think that's when you probably realise a little bit that, it's something a little bit more than frustration of being late. So I did a blog on this, and lots of newspapers very kindly printed it, and I stuck it in the back of the book, actually. I won't flog this too much to you because it bores myself flogging it, but at the moment, it's the only income I do apart from a pension, I admit, but I paid for a hell of a lot into it for a long time, all right? It wasn't for free, so that's cool. But that book was all the bits in, when I was in a bar with mates, and it'd be military mates or police mates, and you're just reminiscing. You go, "Oh, do you remember that? Oh, yeah, I had a time when this." And I thought, over the last couple of years, I was writing them down and thinking, yeah, that stuck out. Why did that stick out? And it's not all macho bloody terrorists, shooting terrorists and all that. I couldn't compete with that in London. This is Devon and Cornwall, and we were very busy, and there was lots of drugs, knife crime still, but luckily less than a lot of the other places, and that's why we're dual rolled. So fatalities were my other specialism, and it was then trying to get into the hearts of the younger people to get it in there as to why they should feel empowered when they're in a car and they're feeling in danger because their girlfriend's driving recklessly. Let's face it, it's more likely the boyfriend driving recklessly, isn't it? It's amazing, I can say that now. But, statistically, it's the sacrificial seat is the front passenger seat, is where the girlfriend. So there's more young girls die in fatalities because the guy is the boyfriend. He likes, tends to go and drive the girlfriend round, and then he avoids the collision by presenting the girlfriend to the tree. And that's what happened. That's the tragedy. So it's not just persuading the drivers to drive sensibly, it's persuading whoever the passenger is, whether your boyfriend or the girlfriend or whatever, is to say wait, and giving them ways to how to stop that by saying, "I'm going to be sick in your air vents." So tactical pursuit and containment, yes, is when we've got information that there is a vehicle full of drugs, possibly got a gun on board or whatever, but is full of drugs. We need to get him off. Now, we can either pursue him and have a great fun pursuit all over the world, all over the country, and we'd be criticised quite rightly for that because we could have dealt with it in another way. Tactical pursuit is various options, but one of them is to just sneak up to it with them thinking it's just one car. If they see you, it's got no lights on, and then because you've approached so closely, you've seen it on television, so I'm not giving it away. You are literally you train by driving down runways, disused runways, and with instructors. It's a bit like the Red Arrows. You're within an inch of each other, and then you'll just tap the car occasionally, dunk, dunk, and yet that will be at sort of 85 miles an hour, and there'll be one on side of you, one behind you, one thing, and the idea then is so you turn up in a queue. And the car goes, is that a car? And before you know it, one police car's right in front. So they're like, oh, brake, 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 brake. I'm going to go out to the side. Oh, no, there's a car there. Wing mirror to wing mirror. There's another police car there. And oh, I'm going to brake. No, there's a police car behind. And if you're nice and close, you can't get, a bit like being a boxer. If you get a swing out, you can get a lot of power. If you can't get the swing out, then you can't get power. And they are stuck. Out of about 35 plus of these things I did, I had a broken number plate is the worst of it. So tactical pursuit and containment, that is. It also includes tactical contact. I was having pursuits until through my last couple of months. I had loads around Torbay at that point. But Andrew left a £26,000 job to a 14,000. Here we go. Let's take a minute. Left a £26,000 job to a 14k starting salary. But best decision ever. I'm getting that a lot, Andrew, and I think it's the whole point of why I always say if you're joining the police, you're just about to I never knew what I was going to do in the next 10 minutes for the rest of my life, the rest of my service. I had no idea. It might be nothing. It might be like, oh God, dullest couple of hours. I finished my paperwork, I've driven up there's nothing going on. It's like early morning, all the criminals are asleep in bed. Oh. And then I'm on the way to a triple fatal, stolen vehicle, whatever, or a fire, or someone who's threatening to jump off a bridge or whatever. Just like that. Just like that. Or the next thing, you're scrapping like mad, trying to detain someone. So, yes, Andrew, you're right. The bits I missed of the police, I said, again, I'm nicking these comments, but I said this to my local paper once. They used it as the headline, and I said I miss the clowns, but I don't miss the circus. I think that's what it is. The people are wonderful. You will not miss. It's a bit like the military. If you know anything about any experiences with family in the military, you realise what's a close knit. And a cop is a cop is a cop. And I went to California. I won the Twitter awards for these Twitter awards for best Twitter account for 2016, police Twitter account for 2016. So I went over there and did the conferences. Cops, they're cops are cops. Wherever you go, they're the same. So it's wonderful. It really is a good family, and then you're actually doing good stuff. So yeah, you can be stressed, and you can have coping mechanisms for that. And then you sort of, if you think about it as well, when you're in the police, you go, I'm a bit bored of this. I've been here for 3 years. I've been in Torquay for 2 years, done my probation. Where do I want to go? And I was told, no, you're going to Dawlish. Oh, a little subsiding chicken shack. That's the place where the railway line fell into the water. It was the best thing ever, And then I went back to Dawlish, Torbay again, and I was on the incident car. So I was now standard driving course. I was ratting around the town. It was great. Then got onto firearms. So again, a different thing. Whereas if you're an estate agent, you're an estate agent, and you might move estate agents, but then I could say, do you know what? I want to go for dogs, or I want to go for. So there's so much in through that, especially in the operations department, which contains all the biggest toy box. It used to be helicopter, but it's now separate now. But the dogs, the public order, armed response, that side of things. It was. As the superintendent once said, he's now in charge. He's just been, when he was promoted into position, he said, I've just been put in charge of the biggest toy box I've ever had, very expensive one. So, but no, I've done it. I've done it a long time now, and I did it 30 years, and I was the longest serving armed response officer. And it was time for a change. It was time, and I could see next generation coming in, and I'm 52 now, and it's not old. And that's why I say I'm former cop. I'm not retired, because I'm very busy still, and I've always busy. I've had a small business. I've always done all my DIY. Built this extension. It's a small extension. It's a box, single story extension I built, and all my cars and I bought building sites and just did them up myself as well. So I've always been really busy, and an importing business, which I've not done now because I've sort of slowed it down. I'm sort of more interested in this side of things, even though I'll tell you now, my YouTube channel's made me £6.49. All right. Thank you. So, so if you want to support my YouTube channels, then yeah, get one of those. You can get those on Amazon. You can get them on Amazon, and you can get them on. It's like I've had amazing, wonderful reviews from it. Amazon has got it's like 4.7 out of 4.6. I think it's gone 4.6 out of 5. How dare they? And it's over 600 reviews, which is quite rare for something that I released as a self-publish in April, just last April. So that's good. So you can support me with that, but I'm not going to hard sell it, I promise you, even though technically I probably have done. Technical, yeah, what's your opinion on the ARV taking response jobs? I've met some who are happy to and others, right, okay. So response is what everyone starts off doing and many people remain doing, and they are the best cops there are because they don't specialise, but they get better and better at what they do. And they have all that worth of experience. So absolutely phenomenal with that. And yes, I can see in cities, because we tend to be on different radio channels, I was monitoring 3 radio channels and I was attending bits on each one. And so when you went back to the original one, they were like, well, what have you been doing? I've been busy all day. Do you know what I mean? So, and it was always that. And I think because with the armed response, you're the buck stops here thing. If somebody is in the street stabbing somebody, if there's not the ARV there, then you're going to have to send a unarmed response officer, which isn't great. So they're saying, well, why are you tying up? So my thing was, look, there's no reason. If you can't dump it and run, then there's no reason why you can't attend domestic disputes and whatever. Ultimately, you've got to weigh up. You know, the argument was fatal road traffic collisions. Well, funny, if they're dead, they're dead, you know. Stick a cone find a very nice PCSO and hold the scene while we'll go and do the armed response job. Fortunately, it very, very rarely coincide. But yeah, I think a lot of it is because armed response officers don't do that job, do specific jobs. And so then suddenly they end up with a remand file. I'm thinking, well, wow, when's the last time I did a remand file? And they can be mocked for that and go, oh, it's all right for you dancing around in your own car. Well, if I was to show you a 6-week example of what the ARVs are doing with their training, they do 4 days training every 6 weeks, and it is high pressure, high intense assessments, and you can get chocolate coming out your ears. You know, when you're going into a room, team leader room, or it doesn't have to be team leader, you go and you don't know what scenario is. You just know there's 2 bad guys in there with a hostage. Thank you. You know, make it imprecise situation to precise. And you go in there and you're covering the doors at the right, and you're being assessed all the way through. Did you cover that window? Or you're using the very set procedures. It's different if it's a 4-person, 3-person, 2-person team. If it's emergency entry, if it's methodical, search. So it's all very different. You're looking for all the doors, but you're also thinking, right, I'm in a door and there's an open door to the right, there's a closed door on the left, there's a sort of stairways that go to the bottom there, and then there's an L shape here. And sometimes you go, where the hell do I start? And it's only experienced training that actually gets you to do that. And you are exhausted at the end of these days. And of course, it can be, don't play my violin here, because it's very rewarding. And then we do get very nice cars, and it's nice to get some really lovely jobs, sort of your high-end jobs. But it is knackering. It's just different. It's just different, really. But ultimately, when response are used up, which is very quickly, and somebody is in danger, you can't swan by in a car, can you? You've got to attend it, you know? And I always think there was a rule I had is just imagine, I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, what we got, you know? And then I think to myself, well, first of all, you're the sergeant, so you should be telling anyone else off for thinking that. And secondly, I think, well, what if it was my sister in an abusive relationship? What would I be thinking now? You know, and you're thinking, that's someone's sister in an abusive relationship, you know? And that's how it was, just that constant reminding myself when things could start getting a little bit repetitive. Oh, it's just another domestic. Oh, it's just another broken down vehicle. But what was that if it was that my mum in there? Am I being sexist again? But I always joke about this. If it was my brother, I'd like, oh, he'll be all right. If it was my mum, I'm like, no. So, uh, but the freedom of being able to speak, and if someone doesn't like it, it's great. They can switch off, whereas before they'd just make a complaint. I had so many on Twitter. I just did Twitter in the last sort of 5 years of policing. And I had so many complaints by people who just didn't like what I said or didn't, for various reasons. And I had 2 misconducts, about half a dozen local resolutions. And before that, I'd had 2 in 25 years. So I wouldn't be doing Twitter on police if I had 10 years left, that's for sure. But I needed that something else. And I just wanted to equal up the odds a bit because they were getting a hell of a battering. I mean, some people are saying this flag here was like, oh, it's far right. Anyone who has that on there, it's shut up. That's our flag. Don't nick it and give it another meaning. All right. That's thin blue line. That is the general public and the police. That's the criminals, the police, general public, and that's the thin blue line that gets thinner and thinner as the cuts were made. And it's the thin blue line in the UK as well. What it was, that's all it is. That's all it was, and it was to support and give those people who have died and who've been killed or whatever, and through whether it's road traffic collisions, suicides, and things like that in the police and whatever. So it's good for that support. Right, I am rabbiting on. I've got to get right. I'm going to try to answer these questions a little bit quicker now, okay? Because I do rabbit on, as you know, and it's half an hour already. And look, I've still got 39 people on. Thank you very much. And this will be on afterwards, so you can review it later, and watch it later. But what's your opinion on average? Response? Yeah, so I think you're always going to get that clash. But I think it's through lack of the unknown, misunderstanding of the unknown of look, you're going to get your lazy cops. You're going to get them on response. You're going to get them in ARV. They're few and far between. But all it needs is that one example where some tired cop just had a little bit of a hissy fit, and then somebody said, oh, well, look what the ARVs are, That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And the same way I say is if a police officer, you speak to a member of public, it could be the very first time they've spoken to a police officer, ever. And I promise you that will be their opinion of you forever, of the whole of the police. Very frustrating, by the way. Right, okay, so yeah, so very frustrating. By the way, the degree course has been brought in, will put off a lot of potentially great future officers. Yeah, because I put a tweet out once saying I'm on response officer, firearms officer, traffic officer, ARV, TPAC, advanced driving, team leader of Operational Firearms Commander, as pursuit tactics advisor, VIP protection. I looked after prime ministers, presidents. I stood next to the Queen for several days on 5 separate occasions. And yet, clearly, I'm not considered suitable for the future policing role because I haven't got an A-level, let alone a degree. And the CEO of College of Policing actually said, oh, yeah, but Harry, it's really important that these skills are recognised. And I said, right, don't get me wrong here. We need people with degrees. We need, like in a section, you need lots of different characters in there. You need people with degrees who are particularly good. I mean, there's sergeants who were good at doing projects and setting up, policies that were so important. We're having real problems in this area. Yeah, I'm going to put a policy together, stick it up above, and so they're mixing it with experience, and it's fantastic. I couldn't do that for all the, all the cheese and Wensleydale. I just couldn't do it. So it's everyone for the horses and courses, and I think about a third of the cops in the UK have got degrees as it is, which was an astonishing, I don't think I'm making that up. It's an astonishing thing. Most of them completely find them irrelevant. Well, they're not irrelevant because they do find them of use, but many admit themselves, they say, well, it's a waste of time, but it was actually a good time of their lives and whatever. So I've got nothing against degrees. We need that. But what I think is shockingly sad is that they've raised the bar for the minimum standard. And somebody tried to tell me that, well, it's a lot more complicated nowadays. And I think we all know the people who had a bad education, didn't go to college, and suddenly invented computer games, computer things, or it's you're getting. And I think it's probably one of the reasons why nurses, if you want to be a specialist nurse, then yeah, do a degree, get into that specialism. But if you want to be a nurse that is there, that you have got brilliant bedside manner, and you can just turn people's lives around and make them feel so much better and help them recover by doing nursing work to a high standard without going into specialist, then you probably wouldn't have 40,000, a lack of 40,000 off nurses at the moment. Well, I wouldn't get in today. I wouldn't get into the job today. And I could cope with it. I was quite happy to cope with it, you know. You see that? That is my one beer I've had tonight. I've got water as well because I don't want to push it with a whole pint. Oh, blimey! I'll be telling you all my secrets. What's your so yeah, frustrating, but look, it's not the end of the world. Just work harder at school, kids. And I think Martin Lewis is right. It's not a debt in university. If you don't end up paying it, you don't end up paying it. You know, you're not. It's not. But I'm worried that they'll change the goalposts because guess what? They did that with the police, with the pensions and things. They just changed the law, changed the goalposts. I said I'd answer this quicker and I didn't, so I lied already. Therefore, you can say just the cops lie. Did you work with German Shepherds? Yes, I did. Let me see whether I can quickly. This is, I love these. I love the dog units. That's why I'm very good friends of Dave. I just speak to Dave Wardell from Finn's Law just to get to his dogs, really. But yeah, he's been here. He's let me get you a picture of, there we go. There's the one. Let's bring this one up. I like this one. So I need a production team here now, please. I need a rider. I need a production team. I need the whole lot. Okay, here we go. So this was the one dog. This is a foam chain. And then, oops, let's go. And then these are the ones we're working with mostly, you know. So this dog here, I would have been just prior, a couple of nights before, chasing very nasty people, and this thing tracking and looking like the Tasmanian werewolf. I mean, they're absolutely horrendous, scary animal. But I love dogs, and I wasn't worried about them because I knew how professional they were. And yeah, if they give you a little nip, I found it a sort of a little badge of honor, really. But you see the back here is where let's see if I've got my my pointer. In the back here, you can see where all my section are. We've been training during the building searches in like just schools and stuff, and so you're training for mental health, but also terrorism act, because you think, well, what terrorists are we going to get in Devon Cornwall? Well, we had the Giraffe Cafe, which was a very famous one where some guy was radicalised in Plymouth. He was, shall we say, learning difficulties, easy to radicalise, and told him how to make a bomb. He set it off in the Giraffe Cafe. It went off wrong because he got one sort of thing wrong, so it just went off in his face and badly burned him. But it was a very capable device of blowing out half of the cafe. He went to prison and he committed suicide in prison. So bad old story in all, really, because so often it's not just bad people, it's ill people. But sorry, for me, that's no excuse. We've got to protect the innocent. And we don't protect them at the expense. We don't look for the rights of the criminal over the rights of the victims, which is what happens so often. But yeah, no, I love the dogs so much. Owens, what's there? Owen asking up there a minute. Oh no, what's part of this? So, what is the best part of ARV? Training, driving, or the firearms instance? Oh, firearms instance, you couldn't beat it better. The real jobs were great because it was just the full tactics. And we'd go to the national decision model. Is now all cops will use this, and I used ITPTA, which is information intelligence. I know this off by heart, and it's slightly changed, but same meaning. They just changed it. So I'm going to a job, and I think, right, what's my information intelligence? And you're thinking, right, okay, what's fact? What is presumed? And I'm discussing it with the boss on the phone to see whether we're going to authorise what level of firearms we're doing, or is this something blowing out water, or are we getting tunnel vision down something? And so then you think, well, what's the threat assessment? What's the threat and risk? And I'd be putting together some sort of, some working strategy as to what we're actually going to do in order to deal with this, the working strategy. But what's the powers and policies? What are we lawfully able to do? Do we need a warrant? Or like so many of the times, if basically, let me tell you, if you feel that you need to go in, you can go in, because there's serious harm or injury, death or damage that's going to occur, or there's someone in there and you can see them there for a very nasty crime, then believe me, you can go in and knock the door down without a warrant. And then you've got what's your tactical options and contingencies, and your options and contingencies were so important. That was something, and I learned 19 contingencies from what if there's shots fired from within to out, arrests. So we've got enough for an arrest team whilst keeping the containment on. What if they want a phone? Have we got a system for getting a phone in there if they haven't got one? If the radio systems go down, what happens if somebody wants to, what if there's a dog in the house or whatever? Well, they set fire to the place. These sorts of contingencies. You tick these off automatically in your mind, and it was by memory. And then you action, and then you review it. So you do your action. You go, right, okay, we're going to do that. And the decisive action would be, there's 7 of them. You either wait and get more information. You either observe or do an investigative. You would do a mitigating action. So that is like, well, I'm going to pretend I'm a postman, go to the door, and then that will get me location where I can grab him and nick him, because it's meant to be doing it with a shotgun, or for example, they could be doing a job on a jeweler's and we just don't know when it's going to be, so we'll park a police car outside the jeweler's, and that should mitigate that from happening. But what you're doing is passing that threat onto another time to another location that we know even less about, so you have to weigh that up. Investigative assessment means just go in there low key but be ready to react, sort of thing, or just contain it until you know more. That could be a mobile containment. Communication, so negotiation, and then the decisive actions, and that could be vehicle interceptions, that could be building entries, that could be critical shot. Terrorists, they've got a bomb, they're walking to a town centre, critical shot is execution, let's face it. So those are the things. But then once you do that and things are right, what's happened now? Okay, we've got to the address, they're not in that address. Okay, spin the wheel again. That's the national decision model. All right, spin the wheel again. IT, PTA. All right, PTA, I just thought school meetings used to be in the old days, but that's the way I made it. So IT, information intelligence, threat assessment, powers and policy, tactical options, and actions and review, contingencies. But in amongst that, you have an awful lot of other stuff as well. You have something where, okay, what do we know about the identity of the offender? What do we know about the capability, and what is their intent? So, okay, he says I'm going to kill someone, but what's his capability? Well, he's got previous for stepping on the cracks of the pavement. Okay, not a lot of capability. Well, what's his intent? Well, he's just shouting off he doesn't like the person. Okay, so it's not like he wants to kill him because he wants to seek revenge. Okay, so we need to let's dig around a little bit more. But if, okay, there's county line criminals from London come down, what's their intent? The informant says they're going to go down to Plymouth and take over the drugs gang there. And what's the capability? Well, 2 of the offenders have got previous for doing 10 years in prison for armed robbery. Okay, that's slightly different, isn't it? That's what it is. So I know I've gone really quickly but I didn't want to bore those that weren't really interested. Right, can be monitored multiple channels, and also the cast sets have a more powerful antenna and work better in crime detection. Right, yeah, okay. So yeah, best part of ARV training, driving and firearms and incidents were the incidents, I think. The training was good fun and people love the training, but I was starting to get a bit wary of that now. I was like, oh God, again, is it already training? I love doing the jobs, but it's so important to do the training, isn't it? This one here, people are surprised. No, I don't. There's a big wide world out here. It's the best job you can do, I'm sure. So do it. I'm not saying I don't want to do it because it's rubbish. I'm doing it because it would only be more of the same, And in the final few years, your mates are going, are you going to stick around, Sarge? You've done your sergeant's exam. Yeah, you've gone for your interview, haven't you? Yeah, I just wondered if you were like nudging you out the seat. I wouldn't go too many, steep edges near those officers. Fatals mentally. This is a question that comes up a lot. How do you deal with fatals mentally? Okay, so if you're out there and you're thinking, I'm a bit of a softie myself, so I'm not sure I'll cope very well. I'm the biggest softie. All right. I just need to see. Yeah, I'm quite brash. I'm quite sort of. I say it how it is. I suffer fools. It's like something like that. But so I'd say I'm middle of right. All right, with my. I'm saying I'm middle of right. I am. I'll tell you. I think we're in terrible system of the way at the moment with identity politics and all this sort of thing. I think we're in a real trouble. But I think we're coming out the surface. I think practical people who are level-headed are coming through, but they just didn't feel safe enough to be able to talk before. But myself, I'm a soft git, and there was something on the TV, and it's just quite sad or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. My wife's like that, I'm like, oh, and it's like, I think it's just a release. I think it's helped me because I've been to, even though I treat the individuals concerned. When you see a body, and especially if it's sort of, well, not especially, but if it's in a violent death, and I stopped counting at 150 of them, so probably over 200. But there was no body there. I mean, it was no person. The soul had gone. I'm not religious. All right. Funny, I struggle to see how people are religious when they're in the police, because first of all, they need evidence, and secondly, they'd think, well, I don't really want to be a part of that gang because it's not a nice gang, because people die, all the best people die, and 6-year-old children die, and so then my personal thoughts on fill your boots though. All the respect to those who do, but I just detached myself from it in a way that it was, for me, and please take this in the right way, it was like a piece of meat. The person had gone. That's a piece of meat. And so the gory it was, you don't know until you go to a post-mortem, which you don't think you have to do nowadays. But I went to a fair few forensic post-mortems, but it's I found it fascinating in post-mortems. It was just unbelievable when the pathologist picks up points to a blood clot and says that there is what killed this man in his heart, and you're like, whoa, there it is. Wow, that's what killed him, that made him lose consciousness and crash. So it was the heart attack that killed him, not the crash. Those are the things you just got to sort out, you see. And even though it might be obvious, you've got to prove it. So I found it fascinating. But I think the biggest, why I got into it in such a way, I think, is I could see a bit of preventive. This was preventative, but it was getting closure for family, and if someone needed to go to prison. If you think it's just like a murder, if you've got an offender, they need to stand trial, they need to go to prison. If they were so reckless and careless, and they were drunk, or they were just driving around blind bends because they thought it was funny, then they need that. You need to prove that, and that takes time to prove it. You need to get the evidence, and once it's gone, it's gone. Whereas if with a murder, they'll just cordon the place up for a whole week. Well, that's why I think 6 hours isn't too bad for a road. And then there was some sort of, so it was job satisfaction for me, because I could tell, look, that family went to the court case, the Crown Court case, and they could see how much work was put into it and how much we gave a shit, and that was job after job after job after job. And I tell you what, it makes you value life more. I don't worry about silly little things. If I want to do something, I'll do it, because it could all be gone tomorrow, couldn't it? Hey? So these silly little things people worry about, and I can see why they do, because it's all relative. But for me, that constant reminder of 2 dead eyes looking at me in my face, and me thinking, that person had no idea they were going to be dead 25 minutes ago, Yeah. So that's how I do. I think it's through luck rather than judgment. I never really talk about it at home. I didn't really feel the need to. I was very busy at home doing other stuff with my small business and DIY and stuff. So it really got me out of it. So, and that's another reason for now I've left the police, even though people were really surprised I did. They were like, oh, but you are the police, Even my mates were saying that, my colleagues were saying that. And I'm like, oh, that's it. there's an exciting world out there. Can you have another business by serving police? Yes, but it has to be checked out and vetted. And you will never have found me on my police Twitter saying, "Oh, I've got a business." I wouldn't even mention the fact I got a business. So you're not allowed to. I would be able to have a shop, but I don't think I'd be able to be behind the counter. I could employ someone else to be behind the counter, but I couldn't be because it could give I could be wrong with that, but I'm not allowed to say, "Hey, you can trust me. I'm a copper. Come and buy my things." So that's the difference. And of course, it can't impede on your business and bring the police into disrespect and things. So imagine if I had a brothel or something, it probably wouldn't go down very well either. What is the commendation? I tell you what, this is a laugh. This is because I never display this. This is the ropey old shelf down there, and I thought I've got to fill. If you look at this, there's some washing over there, right? And this is like the spare room thing, and it's such a mess. And I had to have something that was relatively responsible. This here was accommodation. I didn't get many commendations, but I had a hell of a long time. But I was the one putting people forward for commendations because guess what? I was the sergeant. So I was the supervisor seeing my resources doing it. So they got commendations left, right and centre. Because my inspector, they didn't really get to see what I did anyway. But I really couldn't care. But it is, you can tell, can't you? This here I was off duty and I'd taken my dogs to the vet and I heard the wow, 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 call the police. And it was the automated sound on a cash in transit. And there was two guys robbing a guy with this helmet and he was holding onto the cash box. And the guys were just smacking him with a bar. And I thought, it looks like a metal bar. That's good. Can't see any guns. So I ran out and I was in a khaki green top, looked a bit militaristic, and my jeans. And I jumped out my Pajero, which I had, and ran over and challenged them. I might have shouted "Armed police," I'm not sure, but it would have been force of habit if I had. Anyway, they did a starburst, and I ran after him and I caught him. I remember this old boy tapping me on the old shoulder as I got my quarry and threw him into a plate glass window and then dragged him onto the floor. And you got 3 years for that. The old boy was like, "Well done, boy, well done." So good times. And the reason I went home and I thought, oh no, I'm going to be in so much trouble with home because my wife's always saying, "Don't get involved." She doesn't talk like that. So that's what that is. So look, let's look. What cars do you like to use? The X5s were very good. We always want more powerful cars, but the X5s were good because of 4x4, great for rural, great for snow, because you can't suddenly find a whole load of 4x4s when it snows 2 days a year. So some of your fleet have got to be that, and so they chose the ARVs, and 135, 140 mile an hour cars. They have the armories in, the weight of 2 armed officers in there, and they get thrashed every day. So they're pretty good things. We used to have Range Rovers. I don't think Range Rover they love us using them for VIP, but obviously not for, they wanted to steer away from police Range Rovers. Do you remember when they used to be? They wanted a little bit too posh for the police, I think. It's all about what it portrays, doesn't it? Oh, right, yeah. Well, I do have a ZZR 1200 motorbike in the garage, which I know goes to 70 mile an hour very quickly. Is it strange to think if you pick up a gun now or drive at 71 miles an hour, you'll be breaking the law? Yeah, do you know what? I really haven't thought about it because I drove around at work, going to jobs and spending other people's fuel that you'd paid for, thank you, in cars that you'd paid for as a taxpayer. I didn't really have the need to at home, and I'm not going to talk too loudly about my ZZR 1200 motorbike, no, I didn't really, because I didn't need to, because I had that at work, and I've done 30 years of driving on the ragged edge, I guess, but there we go. Nothing the perpetrators to do building work, not an issue. Right. Brilliant. Thank you. I'm currently going through vetting, so just wanted to know. That's okay. Oh, Owen, I think other people have answered you on that as well, which is cool. Oh, this is a good one, isn't it? What do you think of the drug policy in the UK? Personally, I think it's complete sham. We followed the US into the so-called war on drugs, and the current system criminalizes normal people. Yeah, all that, but I would say cautious with thinking that it's going to solve all our problems. I think we're just going to get a whole different set of problems. I saw with, with the legal highs and stuff, when that was all legal, all I ever did was go to dead teenagers with scattered sachets of empty legal highs and people who were completely zombied out of their head. And I don't remember going to so many of those now. So I'm not so sure that they were all okay, we're all clean living type people. But I think, think, well, it's now illegal, so I won't take them. I don't think of that. But I think what it does, it legitimized it. It made it as if, so you've got someone growing up and they go, well, what, Dad? It's not even bloody illegal. Why can't I have it? Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it is a gateway and all that. They can say not everyone does it by any means. I know cannabis, masses of people to smoke. I tell you, one of the things I selfishly don't want it to be like that. Well, first of all, if people smoke cannabis socially, I lost the license of many of people who just socially smoke cannabis because all they had to do was get involved in a knock, standard swab, positive test. It's out of my hands. They've lost their license as if they're a drink driver. So they've probably lost their job and therefore can't pay their mortgage. It's disastrous. And I didn't feel bad about that in the slightest because I saw how they acted when they were driving, because a lot of the time they drew attention to themselves because their driving was like, way, So no, I'd be driving behind a car sometimes, mostly when I'm on my motorbike, and you smell that thing. And it's just everywhere. I went to some racing thing, car racing thing. I can't remember which one it was now, but it was it was full of middle-aged people, myself and older, and I couldn't get away from this stuff. And I was like, oh, do I want to smell that my entire life when I go down the high street? I mean, it's getting like that now, isn't it? So that's my selfish thing. I think my general answer to that is, if you think it's going to solve all your problems, it won't, and we'll just have a whole load of different ones. So. And I think people who go, well, no, if they solve it, believe me, it would have been done if it was that simple. But I don't know. I think you're right with what you say. But what else? And once you open up the Pandora's box, it's just don't take drugs. Right, I want to show you a picture here of. I'm going to show you a picture of a search of some drugs. Oh yeah, I'll show you. Here's my last section. Nice bunch of people, weren't they? Good guys and girls. There are girls there. There's a girl there. There's a nice family photo. There's me and the jaundiced yellow glasses. And I'm just rattle through. There's me and doing my nice little, so training was very wet bushes. This was doing railways, because we've got to know how to, if someone takes over a train, what's the procedures? How do you get up the high levels when there's no platform? And how do you search a train, which is just a big glass tube? How do you search it safely, methodically? So it's really, really important to do all that stuff. So it's all training was just, it was incessant. It was just constant. I'll just show you some of the guns that we have. So those are the guns in the boot of the car we would have. These would be in the army normally, but it gives you a good idea of that's the one with the sharp points that will really hurt you. That's the G36. This is the AP, the rubber bullets. We get that out and people would go, oh, he's got a rocket launcher, and it's the rubber bullets. These are the magazines, lots of magazines. Stun grenades and smoke grenades, and of course you've got the Glock. This is my Glock here, which to me, when in qualification shoots, was just like going for a round of golf. I just adored shooting, absolutely adored shooting. Oh yeah, and lots of little helicopter trips, and if I was going to take an hour to get somewhere, I needed to get quickly. It's I'd ask for the helicopter, and so I'd get there a damn sight quicker, as you can imagine. So it was really, really effective. The toilet thing I wanted to show you. was because we were doing a search of premises, and here's where this is a genuine job, and it was where a house had been cuckooed, basically cuckooed. So somebody goes into a vulnerable occupant, and they ply them with alcohol, cannabis, and money, and then they usually, because they're a vulnerable person, they then befriend them, get their confidence, move into the house as housemates, and then they chuck him out. They've got his house, then they can deal drugs, and this was the toilet that we found in there. The house looked relatively okay, but then it was like, here we go, come on, in you come. There you go, don't do drugs, kids. I mean, it was just, wasn't good. Wasn't good. There's a lesson. If you want to know whether drugs do anything for you, not nice at all. Okay, what should you tell someone who doesn't like the gory stuff but really wants to be a police officer? Okay, I'd say don't worry about it, because nobody knows whether you're going to fall down and collapse if you see a dead body. Very few people do. I did very few smelly bodies because most of my victims were quite fresh. Whereas if you stay in response, you're probably going to deal with someone who hasn't been seen for 3 weeks on a nice hot summer's month. So different sort of bodies on that side of things, but post-mortems, they are very smelly because inside you doesn't smell nice, as sometimes you let your partners know in error. But yeah, so I don't let it put you off if you are gory, find it gory or whatever, because not a lot of people do like it, and you probably I've known armed response officers, massive guys, really top guys, and yet they are very squeamish. They have to walk out of the video of the first aid thing, because we get some first aid on ARVs is quite high level, because gunshots are similar to road traffic collisions, so they train us higher on that. So we used to do cannulation fluids and things, but it's all very Celox. It's like coagulants, it's blocking it, oxygen, it's lots of toys to use for these things, and it's really used. But he was as squeamish as they came, man mountain. So it doesn't matter if you're 4 foot tall female or a 7 foot guy. Got nothing to do with it. They actually say that what it is you're doing when you faint is when you're. I heard from someone that it's they reckon it's your body going, oh, your arm's cut. You're looking at someone who's had a big cut in their arm, but your body says that's your arm. It's been cut. You need to shut it off. Shuts the oxygen off. You fall over. No pumping blood out, and you don't die. So actually, it's a very good mechanism for saving your life. Whereas me, who's not squeamish in the slightest, would probably bleed to death because I'm like, oh look, my arm's fallen off. So that's the other. Did you ever consider being an SFO? I didn't, because phenomenally well trained, and they do the abseiling and stuff like that. I had the best of both worlds. I liked the sergeant type stuff. I think I was okay. I was to a really good standard, but you have to be a certain type of person to be the SFO, and I don't think you're going to know until you've done it lots and lots of stuff. So I think like so many, is a big failure rate, and I think I've probably been one of those because I didn't really want it. I loved the variety of the stuff that I was doing, and a lot of the time, if you're an SFO, you're doing a lot of waiting around and training, whereas I was doing a lot more firearms jobs, vehicle interceptions, knocking cars off the road, arresting nasty people, and having fun like that, and searching houses. So yeah. Personal issued, the Glock, the pistol was personal issued, because you're very careful, because I'm right-handed, but I aimed through my left eye, which is quite rare. That's my comfortable eye to do, and so the sight would be slightly different. So it's tailor-made. Everything else was not tailor-made, was shared, which you needed, because the longer weapons, the long arms they call them, but the longer weapons, to be honest, is point and squirt. Where's the red dot? There it is. Squirt. That's it. Gets the result. Not difficult. Sorry, you had your tea. Sorry, I did try not to make it too right there. How did you cope with shifts and dealing with the work-life balance? Okay. People tend to find when they were 40 years old, it started to go. I was lucky because I married my wife when she was She was 19 and I was 23. And she, because she didn't have a career, that meant that she took 5 years off. We're twins, boy and girl twins. She took 5 years off and brought the kids up, which meant I wasn't having to do a whole shift, a night shift, come home. My wife goes to work for 9 o'clock in the morning. I have to stay up, take my kids to nursery or school. Then I get to the opportunity to go into sleep. But then I have to wake up early to pick the kids up from nursery or primary school at 3 in the afternoon before my wife came back from her career job in things. So that's what some people are dealing with. And they struggle to sleep in the day because if you think about it, everyone's in the summer in particular, they do building work and they do the hedge trimming and like that. And you're thinking, that's equivalent of me doing that outside your window at 4 o'clock in the morning. But I found it was all right. I could sleep on a fence. I went sleep. I was very lucky. But I think I was spoiled because my wife was that. And then she got a job that was around the schools. And it was only when the kids were old enough and able to look after themselves, she then became a cabin crew. And in her view, got a proper job, because, and it was really good that she fitted in Flyby, and it's all gone tits up, hasn't it, unfortunately. So, yeah, I found it fine. Some people have a sleep before they start nights. I found, no, that would just make me worse. I could get all my paperwork done on night shifts. Other people couldn't even think about doing that. It's all horses and courses. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself and find your best ways, really. Are the police institutionally sexist? Any more than Joe Public? I doubt. Probably less, but then I'm a guy saying that. I found with the women that are in the armed response, VIP, there are, for example, and response are phenomenal. I'm not a believer in you have to be a certain size and whatever. Very, very capable. And with firearms, you have to do the same fitness tests. Police same fitness tests, but ARVs as well, much higher fitness tests, but same one, same assessments. And I know because my mates were assessing me and they fail me, and because it's not like, oh, you're all right on the day. It's not like that. You either do it on the day or you don't. You take the boxes or you don't. And that's something that that's what I talk about at some sort of universities, and I spoke at Eton College online, and then Exeter University on their criminology course and things. But I want to do conferences when moved, but it's just the stop starts I've had. It's not if it goes wrong, it's when it goes wrong, and it's how you deal with it. It's how to deal with that disappointment, how to deal when you apply to go in the job and you get thrown back. You're devastated. Your whole plans have gone. It's how you pick yourself up and turn yourself around and then think, right, give yourself a couple of days of grieving. Feel miserable. Feel really sorry for yourself. Do it. But then pick yourself up and do stuff afterwards, go back. And that's what I've had to do all the way through my life. I always said I strive for adequate, you strive for adequate. You get there in the end. Institutionally sexist. When I ask heart to heart to women within the force, no, they don't think so, but there are certain things, for example, say you've got someone who's leading a armed response section and they're in their training, and I'm doing it, and they're operational firearms commander, so am I. For them, and it's really important, very interesting what they say. See, Harry, you're being assessed by your peers and the instructors, and you don't want to look an idiot in front of them. But I've got to also think, do they think it's because I'm female and I can't cope? It's not a job. And I'm like, whoa, genuinely, do you actually think that? Because I know that's not true, because as far as I can, but I know it's not true because they've gone through exactly the same melee that we all have. And so I know it's not true, but she said it doesn't matter. And I think it probably isn't true, but that's what I'm automatically going to think. So I think it's interesting. It's the two-way, isn't it? In a male-dominated thing. I genuinely say I would be, I'd say if any of the guys that I've witnessed, and I'm very close with them all, if any of them witnessed somebody being derogatory against a female for their sex and all that, they wouldn't put up with it. They'd not only because they think it was out of order, and what if they were saying that about their sister or their wife or whatever, but because if somebody then complains and says, well, I didn't like what you said that. And well, what do you? Were you there? Yeah. Well, you didn't actually challenge. You didn't say anything. You know. I mean, there is a limit. You want to be able to relax and have a bit of banter and stuff. And sometimes I find the women could be more inappropriate than the guys could, because it's almost like they want to say, look, you can relax, guys, and with me, you know, there's a limit, but you can relax. I'm not going to be there with my notebook, you know. They're not saying that, but it's almost sometimes, in experience over the years and the decades, I'm thinking, you know, and it's so, I mean, there's whole sciences on it, isn't it? It really is. It's whole sciences. I think I got out of that without causing myself too much trouble, but it's true, innit? Oh, I just wish we could just talk, just say things how we think, and if they're stupid and we can be saying, but it's so dangerous now, isn't it? You'll be shown back to you in your interview in 3 years' time. This is what you said on Twitter. So, okay, what's your opinion on North Wales having COVID wards, which are understaffed with vaccination? Oh, okay, what's this? What's your opinion on North Wales officers having to work on COVID wards, which are understaffed without vaccinations? COVID wards. Oh, officers, are they? I didn't know that. I think the policing is not. First of all, you have your older cops, because if I was out there now and I'm literally rubbing cheek to cheek and fighting with people, scrapping to people, because nobody comes quietly when they're arrested now. There's a big skirmish, because it seems like, especially when you video it and you can have an untidy arrest, then you're on a winner straight away if you're a little scrope. But you know, 'cause no arrests are tidy. So basically, I think they should have the vaccines, because not over the 80-year-olds, but certainly at a certain level, because I mean, there was an officer who has been having to. She's a special constable, and she's have to isolate now for the 5th time. 10 days. That's 50 days gone. This is ridiculous. Come on, you know, it's ridiculous. But what's happening is, so they do all the vaccinations, and then they put a shout out to the control room and for police, medical, and all this sort of thing, to say, look, if you can get here in the next half an hour, you can have it, because we're throwing them away. You know, we've come to the end of the day. So, and that makes sense, doesn't it? But I don't know the details of that ward, so I can't really help you too much with that. Some specials can be blue light. Yeah, that's true. They are blue light trained. Depends on the force and how many hours they do. That's it. You can be blue light trained. What are the fitness requirements for firearms officers? So they are so you got the bleep test, which is, for us, it's 15 meters. You got 15 and 20, but you just more twisting and turning. So some say the 20 is better, but you have a bleep test. I think it's 5.4 or something with a basic. I got into a bit of trouble I did with that one, because I said, look, come on, if you're struggling with that, then you're going to struggle with other aspects of policing. And I was shot down by a few, you know, from within the job, saying, you know, people are anxious and all this sort of thing. But I'm a great believer as well that there's anxiety and there's worry. There's concern, nervousness, worry, and then there's medical anxiety and depression. And I mention it in here, and nobody said anything negative about it in there, but I'd mention it in there. It was almost like name, address, anxiety and depression. And I genuinely think these people think they've got it. And I'm not a medical person, but I don't meet anyone who, yes, I'm feeling really nervous for the bleep test. Yeah, I'm a bit worried, you know, that doesn't really happen anymore. So, and I think actually that's good. It makes you prepare. Yeah, it gives you a bit of a kick up the backside, so you actually go out and prepare. And the 5.4 you should be able to do very adequately if you do basic preparation. And I do think, I'm sorry if you disagree, but I do think if you can't do that 5.4, depending on the job you do, but that's another question. If you're in policing where you're not having to walk the streets, then should you be able to do it? It's probably quite useful to, because you'll probably live longer for it. But you know, if you're in an office all day and that's your role, do you really need to? And then you get very anxious. Then technically, it was in case all hell broke loose, they could, you know, you're technically able to don a uniform and go out and police. But I don't think that's really going to ever happen. So that's fitness. Oh yeah, so 9.6, I think it is for. Well, 9.4 for ARV armed response, so it's a considerable amount. That's a fair old whack. We would usually stick around for the 10 point something, which is what the SFOs did, Specialist Firearms Officers, because we're not going to stop and let them carry on. We couldn't, you know, there's some ego going on here. We don't want them mocking us, do we? And just an example, 52 I was 51 years old, I did 11-minute because I needed to check to see what I could do, so that when I did I knew I could do it. I knew I could do a 9.2 because I did an 11 2 weeks earlier. But because we had someone who's a bit of a stocky lad who struggled, with his fitness, the rest of the section got together and they marked 15 metres in the tarmac, and they got the app with the bleep test, and they did a boop, boop, and it gets a bit quicker and it gets a bit quicker. And he realised that no, he was going to come short. So come on, okay, we'll do it 3 days time. 3 days time back, yeah. After early turn, yeah. Okay, late turn, meet you before late turn. So we all did it together, and that's the best thing about ARVs, and you can do amongst yourselves and your colleagues, really get yourself going. With the TV show Chasing Pedophiles getting quite a reaction. Oh, well, okay, this might be interesting. With the TV shows Chasing Pedophiles getting quite a reaction, what are the more unknown, unsung roles in the police that help with everyday life? Oh my goodness. I mean, I know people who work within that section. Do you know what it is? I think when people are critical for the police and they like to see the best in everyone, they don't quite realise what horrendously nasty, vicious people there are out there who will do the utmost damage to you with the slightest chance they had, and they don't care. They're not even for reason, and there might be lots of psychological reasons why they're like that. But they are very dangerous people, and they are predators, and there's a lot of work going on in the background for information intelligence, and of course that's combating against the freedom of information about it's that confidentiality and that side of things. It got to the point where I had a dead person's phone ringing on the thing, and there are people saying, well, you haven't got the rights to open that phone to answer the call. So I answered the call to find out. I was very, shall we say, I was very subtle because we just didn't know who they were. I was very subtle. I said, oh, we need to have a chat with you. I didn't tell them over the phone, but something needed to be done, and usually if it feels right, it was right. And if somebody wanted to fight me later in court, then I was more than happy to stand in my shoes and argue that point. And usually I found, as long as it wasn't for selfish reasons, malicious reasons, that side of things, I usually found that it wasn't an issue at all. It never really was. Okay, let's just go down to the new comments on there. How's your dog today? We'll see if he's around. Volunteer police cadets to go to before joining. Yes, do the police cadets, because it's so easy to Arthur. Because it's so easy to come on, good boy. There's a good boy. It's so easy to otherwise to get stuck with COVID. Hello, here's Arthur. All right, he's a good lad. Good lad. It's so easy to get stuck in computers, getting dragged down, and you're not able to get experiences and things. But they do all this online stuff, and I think air cadets, going any of the cadets, police cadets, that is a fantastic start, because it really gives you confidence and starts to give you a little bit about leadership, and you'll be going out in a uniform and helping in the public and handing stuff out at fetes and and in towns and things, and it really just gets you used to talking to people in a very safe environment. But it's true. I was a special in D&C, Kyle. So I'm going through the vetting process to be a special in D&C. Wanted to thank you for the videos. Oh, good. They've been so helpful in both preparation for the interview, but also for what I'm letting myself for. Yeah, good. I think the main message there is, look, everyone feels like you did. So, and that you are. We've all got the insecurities, and we're all wondering whether we're up to it or whether we're just a big fraud. Is it imposter syndrome is what they say, isn't it? So, but it's just to hopefully just encourage the next generation, and because you're feeling what I felt 30 years ago, and then I realised it's all bravado. It is. You can be yourself, and you and I wouldn't say give you advice about what you should do, is because your character traits are different from mine. And I'd be rubbish doing yours, and you're probably not very good at doing the way I do things. It's because you use your character the best way, your strengths really. Oh yeah, you see, I thought you were going to ask this before. Actually, someone's going to. What's your opinion on online paedophile hunters? I think it's. I mean, first of all, it's great to get them off, isn't it? Is to take them off, and I think the police are reacting to this a lot more now. Before, it's very difficult because you're thrown into a situation, and the police haven't got the evidence, and they say, "Well, here's what he says, here's what he says," and it's a big step to take someone's liberty. And they say, "Right, we've got this," and I think there's going to be different levels of skill, of ability, and the last thing you want is somebody getting the wrong, suspect, so to speak, and then the police are involved in something which ruins somebody's life, and they commit suicide because they're known on social media as a paedophile when actually they weren't, because the civilian was led by his anger and frustration rather than his skill. So it's I think that's why they're very cautious. It's like, let the police do it. I can see the frustrations when the resources aren't there because it just seems to be freaking endless, doesn't it? I mean, they're just, I think you could put like 200 times more people onto it and you'd still be, I just don't, it's just incredible. Something I couldn't be involved with. I just couldn't be involved with investigating that side of things, really. But how angry, because there's a lot of people, and probably someone here who's experienced that as a victim and things, and it's a lot around, So I think we're getting better. It's a bit like the Operation Snap with the speeding, for example, when people were throwing videos into the police saying, look what they're doing. And now there is a place in every force. It's called Operation Snap. It's a national one, and you can submit your video. I'm not saying it's the equivalent of dealing with modern technology and how the public are using it and how the police have had to catch up. So they now have this system where you can actually evidentially submit it, and it can be dealt with. I would recommend a special being a starting point then instead of straight into full-time. Yeah, because it's so much easier if you're a special first. It's still tricky to apply to get in the specials, but once you're in the special, it is easier to. You can then, you actually got your foot in the door because you've learned the law and you've learned all that side of things, and you've got a good idea, and you've probably done the odd stop search and all this sort of thing, so that when you're with your new recruits and they're like, and you're thinking, that's all right, I've done this before, it's not such a big leap. If you've been a special, if you can do that for a year, a couple of years even, fantastic. Some people actually join the control room. There's always lots of jobs. It's quite high pressure and there's quite high turnover. People then go from radio operator to control room to call taker, for example, and then go to radio operator, and lots of people join the police from there because I'm listening to them doing it all day. I'm sure I can do it better than that. So someone's congratulations anyway, Callum. I've got a start date for Wiltshire this year. Best advice for an 18-year-old. Also, your book was my running partner for a few weeks. Absolutely loved it. Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Best advice for an 18-year-old, just go for it. You don't want any advice from an old bugger like me. It's just be yourself and use your own strengths. And if you want to, bribery is still in the police because you have to buy cakes and make coffees for people and they'll love you forever. All right, so, but that's the only bribery, all right? Also, would it be okay? All right, what's this? If I recommend your YouTube channel to my teachers at college, there are ex-cops too. Yeah, I'm currently studying level 3 policing college. And I think we can learn. It's very kind of you. I found a lot of people I get a lot of retired cops reading and stowing saying, God, it reminds me of this. It's exactly the same as when I was doing it 40 years ago. People are people. And all the insecurities and all, what's it like how do you deal with death and how do you deal with public order? And, when someone's in your face, what's the best way for doing this? So I've done videos on all of these just through practical experience because I've not done a cert ed bloody education certificate. I've not got a degree. I'm just saying it how it is and what I would have found useful, I think, and what I'd learned all the way along the line. So yeah, I do find there's quite a few people, and a lot of the new recruits are getting it from their tutors and all that, and they listen to my videos, and it sort of can bring it into perspective a little bit as well. So yeah, fill your boots. Congratulations on your advance so far. Fantastic news. He's just got the best job ever, honestly. What's your opinion on the debate for CDV colour deficient? Oh, firearms officers. Yeah. I think they're getting a bit better here. They said, they were saying, yeah, my opinion is, come on. You can tell the difference between a red dot and a bloody green traffic light or whatever. It's just, yeah. It's because basically you've got colour blindness, and then you've got this CDV thing, which is, and quite a few of my colleagues were caught up on it. They were picked up. And you've got people there who have never had a problem in 15, 20 years, firearms, and they've been told, oh no, sorry, you can't do it. You're offline. And I think I think people had found it, said, right, we'll have this level, that sounds right. Probably by people who hadn't done firearms, didn't know the practicalities of it, and thought, well, they can't mix red and green up, can they? Oh dear, whatever it is. And so I think it's a bit right. I think it's getting better, isn't it? I think, hasn't it? 801 Godsall. I think it's. I think they've relaxed it a little bit. It'll have to be a national. Speak to College of Policing, because I think they can help you on that. I got the impression that things were calming down a little bit. Oh yeah, forensics, that's good. Nathan, hi, thank you very much. When going through the assessment centre, are you allowed to wear glasses for the eye test part if needed? Yes, you are. Yeah, basically, I've started wearing glasses at 45. I found everyone I know who were 45 when they suddenly went from not needing glasses at all to, and to be honest, for me, middle distance is, especially when I've just taken them off, it's slightly blurred, but I can still read. Do you know if criminology is good degree to have become? I'll answer that. Bloody right, it is good. But I don't need them. But it's much more shabby, and because they're very focals, I don't need them for number plates and distance. But it's just, I wish I could wear contact lenses, but I can't get on with them. But yeah, I could probably, I could shoot with these no problems without it, whatever. And mine are starting to deteriorate now over the last 7 years. Not too bad, but I was staggered at what a non-glass wearing person who wore glasses could see, because ultimately, if you're not wearing your glasses, are you going to be a danger? Most of the time, no, you just can't read a number plate really clearly at 20 meters, so you have to wear glasses, that's it. So again, don't worry about that. You'll be fine with that. Right. Okay. Oh God, there's lots of good ones here. Oh yes, certainly there's a criminology. I couldn't find a criminology degree. Yes. Yeah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think if you've got a relevant degree to the police, then you've got, you cut your training by a reasonable amount. I think it's a year. I think is it 2 years instead of 3 years or something like that. Yeah, because I don't know what is involved in that criminology, but I've spoken at quite a few courses like that. So, what's your opinion on the public helping arresting people? Do the police appreciate it or see it? Oh, right. Well, when we're in the shit, we really need it. Okay. So, hey Arthur, come here. Go and see your mum. Your mum will let you out. Go on. Can you let him out, love? Yeah. Thank you. He's tapping the window to go out. Yeah. I think what it is, the only bit we don't like is when somebody comes in and you've got to be quite firm with people to say, right, no, I'm in charge here. You need to do this, right? We've gone through the nice persuasion bit that is waste of time. Then somebody turns up at the end and thinks it's just started from that moment, and they're like, "Oh, it's all right, leave me alone." That you don't need that. Thank you. You're not separating two bickering people. This is a police officer and someone who needs to wind his neck in for one reason or another, and that can be very frustrating. It's like, it's all right, thank you, you can move off. It's nothing to do with you. Why? And you get this. Why? You just to actually helping someone is rest. Yeah, because a lot of the time, especially with this none of the backup, I would undoubtedly help someone knowing that they would be pretty grateful if they were struggling with someone with the arrest and there's a few people hanging around, and yeah, Go in there and say, yeah, how can I help, officer? Just go like that. So they know that you are no foe, that you are on side and you're with them. That is a comforting thing. Right, it's all right. I'll grab his arm, all right, and it's just say something like that so that they know that you're not the enemy that is going to just punch them in the back of the head, because that's the other option that you're worried about, isn't it? So, yeah, please do. And I mean, I've been in a position where I thought, oh dear, I'm in a whole host of shite right now. And I would have been very grateful for some assistance. But at that point, I just had to fight for my life, basically. And I think they were just scared. When you realise, oops, I've taken on a bit more than I got. But it's so rare. It is so rare that it does that. And, you get a few knocks and scrapes sometimes. But it's not common. It's not common. And a lot of the time I was single crewed, of course, because of my roles. And a lot of the time, it's sometimes you just know, and experience shows you, okay, if I go in with full confidence, you all right, gentlemen? Okay, is everything all right here? You're portraying that confidence. You're not going in there saying, right, everyone needs to go home, because then they'll take you on. It's that very subtle differences, and that's what experience and nicking from people that you respect from before that I did. I nick these ideas, get the best bits from everyone. So yeah, I hope that answers that. P. Widdy, great name. So you did all the courses. The job back then failed by not academically rewarding you. Now they're crediting towards a failure, which is good. Yeah, but the thing is, Andrew, all I would say is that my argument to College of Policing guy was that I'm leaving with no. And when you think, I've done the sergeant's exam, which is a biggie, that's 6 months of hard slog. Practicals on top of that, which is another 6 months of hard slog. Full-on interviews, then, literally months and months of courses. And I'm doing the similar, as a senior investigating officer of fatal road traffic collisions, we learn the murder manual. It's like road death investigation manual was the murder manual. It's called the APP now, it's different, but it's all. So you go through a methodical process, so you don't miss stuff, so you don't take things for granted. So it's not like, you don't turn up and go, what do I think about this? There's a little bit of that, but you need to be methodical with it. And so, yeah, if I did that in the private sector, then I would probably be quite high management on that, I would well imagine, especially when you've got a team of people that it's such a big responsibility at the end of it. But then when I leave, they're not going to say, oh, so you got a degree in the police, did you? Yeah, along with the other 135,000 of us. Oh, okay. Guess what the question will be? What did you do in the police? And then they'll want to know whether it's relevant to their job. So, yeah, if they've said you've got to have a degree before you can apply for us, then that's going to be a non-starter. But then I don't think I'd probably want that job anyway. But... it wouldn't do any harm, but I just knew as a school child doing GCSEs, I knew at that point I needed to have about 5 O levels, right? And I got 6 very average ones, and I knew I was going to struggle with A levels, so I just didn't have that keenness to do it. I didn't like learning. My daughter loves learning. She's in Loughborough University, loves learning, and just wasn't me, So I struggled through, so it's worrying. I think it's worrying that they've cancelled. But then they say you've got to have a level 3 qualification now anyway, which is an A level equivalent. So if the A levels were equivalent back then to now, and I know they're tough, still wouldn't have been enough anyway. So forget the degrees; made no difference. I always considered myself a firearms officer more than a traffic, because I wasn't in the, I'm sorry, your indicator is slight. It's the size has to be a 2.39 lens, and you have only, however, I went to a fatality that killed a 6-year-old child because the door mirror was crazed, broken. So he didn't do a shoulder check. He turned right, crashed into a car. That one span off into the car park, killed a 6-year-old child. So you need to get your door mirrors done. Some people were very good at the tachographs about the weights, measures, Right, but I was very much the road death, the Firearms and the Fatals. I was very much. That's interested me. That interested me because that was life and death stuff. That was preventing it or dealing with the aftermath of it. And that was. So that's what I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed. It's a cliche, but that teamwork, having a section of people with all the little idiosyncrasies within that. You've got all your characters there. It's just good stuff. Good stuff. So there should be definitely have. Thank you. My correspondent, I bet my force would go. Oh no, no. But that scene, my force would good. Devon and Cornwall. If you're joining Devon and Cornwall, phenomenal force. Even Somerset, good bunch. Majority of them are, to be honest, really are good people. Northampton, frickin' hell, they're good bosses there. But your top corridor in Devon and Cornwall, absolutely superb. Real people. They actually gave a shit about people, about their staff. And he's ex-Met, actually, Sean Sawyer was. Have answered. Oh, yes, good. I'm glad that somebody thought your question was a good one, Nathan. What's this one? How often are you getting in situations where you actually have to throw down like that? I don't quite understand that. Where you have to throw down like that? You'll have to explain that. Sorry, don't get that. If you're talking about the scrapping and fighting and things, not really. It used to be, if you're going to have to make an arrest, then you'd have enough resources there because you'd say, what's the guy that you do a bit of research on them? He's doesn't say boo to a goose, or he's just a, okay. You'll always have two, just from allegations. You don't need two, but one day you're going to get it wrong. And I remember I dealt with this really nice person. I just popped him in the back of the car, not even handcuffed, and they were chatting away. Everything's fine, yeah. Arrested them for something. I can tell you why it wasn't that much. And and I drove them into the thing, got them to the cells, and then I did a P&C check on them. Yeah, severe mental health, schizophrenia, GBH with intent, attempted murder. That taught me a lesson that day. If I want to make 30 years, you deal with them politely, nicely, but you make sure there is another person sat behind you so that they are on the opposite, so they can't get around your neck, so they're on the opposite side of your car. Well, no, if I'm driving there, they'll be there, won't they? So that's it. It's just being cautious. Is it common for people to meet their wives' husbands in the police? What are the rules on it? Oh, I know, this is getting all a bit serious. See, for me, it just depends on each circumstance because there's plenty of cops out there who've got wives and children from people they met in the police. I think the issue is what they're finding is that people are using their official authority and gaining that confidence of someone who's a victim, basically, or a vulnerable witness or whatever, and that they suddenly are sleeping with them. And that it then it's like it's almost like grooming or using your power and your position. But at what point then? Because they're saying, if you're dealing with somebody, and even somebody was sacked, weren't they? And it was like because they went out with the sister they were the witness to an incident that occurred or something. So check the small print, guys and girls. I tell you, because because otherwise you deal with a job and you go, oh, she's attractive, right? I'm not going to talk to her because I might want her to be my wife later. Oh, bloody hell! I mean, to me, there's a line you've got to assess each one. Have you used your position to abuse your position in your in your sort of situation of authority? Have you used it, abused it, or is it like 4 weeks later and it was a minor thing that hasn't affected these people in the slightest, and you've just invited them out for a meal? And it's a tricky one, but I think it's you shouldn't make a rule for everything. Like, no, you should never. So yeah, it is common. It's common for people to meet their wives' husbands. I didn't meet mine. I was at working. I was driving up the road outside a chip shop in Abbey Road in Torquay, and I stopped the car. I was like, wow, she's nice. Reversed the car, and I had a look, and I went, she's going to be my wife one day. I said it to myself. And Guy was in the car next to me, who's dead now, unfortunately, bless his heart. But yeah, we always joked about it. Right. Is there less demand? How are we doing for time? Oh God. Okay, we're going to try and make this a 2 hour because we kept the 40 figure alive. So that's not no drop off there. So I'll keep it going for another 20 minutes. And if there's any more, I'll leave you wanting more. That's always a good way to leave you. Right. Hi, Harry. Is there less of a demand for firearms officers in counties like... Oh, good question. Devon and Cornwall compared to East West Midlands. I get the impression that it's boring policing as in firearms in Devon. Right. Good question. That is why we're dual rolled with... So in West Midlands, you'll probably find they're not... I might be wrong, but most forces aren't advanced driving courses. So they are standard driving courses. And standard's still a very high level. It's not like basic. That's still 4-week, 5-week course. They could do pursuits and that sort of thing. But it's not advanced driving lesson, which is another 5-week course on top of that. Is it boring? Absolutely not. When you think, you've got 3,000 cops in our force. If you fold over, right, you've got the southwest, Devon and Cornwall, and sorry if our camera's the wrong way around here for this, but you've got Land's End. Fold over our eastern border, so Cornwall, Devon, fold over our eastern border. Where does Land End land up? In the centre of London. So it can get, for me to get to a job in Penzance, and there would, there would be other resources there, but I would be as Farms Tactics Advisor, and it's an ongoing job, and there's other resources and other addresses to go to, or it's a pre-planned where, you just have some battles with travelling fraternity would come down. They'd have wars with each other from up country to down places in Cornwall or whatever, and they can be very, very violent. They just had sledgehammers and pickaxes and guns, shotguns. So I'd then be going down to Cornwall. Sometimes it'd be quicker for me to get to London than it would be to Cornwall if I left from my east coast of Devon. So you can see it's massive. And because we've got the motorway that comes in, our population trebles in the summer. So you've got, not only have you got victims of holidaymakers, guess who feeds on those? Gang crime, so don't let me put you off our holidays here. We are, I think the safest, or the second to safest of the 43 forces, or whatever they were now, forces there are. So it's a very safe place to be. Knives, drugs is the same as everywhere. And because we have less, we're fortunate enough to have less gun crime. So people in the West Mids and all that are going to be going to gun job, knife job, gun job. We are dealing with road traffic collisions. So we do all the grey bits. So you've got police station with green in the middle, and you've got cities such as Exeter, Plymouth, Torbay, and then Cornwall, such as Truro, things like that. But to get from A to B, to back up that single unit who's now attending a 3-vehicle RTC on their own, they're relying on us. So there's a lot of I'd be doing 1 hour blue light. I'd go to North Devon for a firearms job, tidy that one up. That was we have more firearms in our per square mile than majority of the rest of the country, because it's lots of farmland. So if people get pissed off, they can easily get hold of a shotgun. So we would very regularly go, oh, you need to find my husband. He's gone off with a shotgun. He's found out I'm having an affair. He's going to, well, where could he be going? Well, he could be going to my boyfriend's address, but it could be going to my parents' address, or he could be going to he says he's, if I can't have the kids, he can't, he can't have the kids, I can't, and whatever. So we've got the school, we've got what other places have we got to attend to? And it's getting those resources there, the right resources, the right places the quickly. I never really had a dull moment, I've got to say. And then you're going like that, and then you're going to a domestic. There's pursuits, you get a fair few car pursuits here. Because let's face it, there's not a lot of deterrent for crime at the moment, is there? Well, there isn't, is there? They're out in 5 minutes, so they're just carrying on where they left off. Being cynical, but I'm not. It's true, isn't it? What's your strangest call? I know, I'm just trying to think of the funny. If I get asked what's the funniest, I couldn't really think about it. The strangest the strangest call is well, we get these sorts of things, and I thought I'd. Oh, Arthur's kicking off. Um, we have these calls where I put this one on right there. Now I knew that that would be in the paper in about 3 hours in the local paper, Devon Live, 3.5 minutes I think it was, and someone put a comment on there saying that's a face only your wife should see, which I thought it was hilarious. But being a police officer then, I couldn't actually appreciate it with them. But these are sort of sheep that were. These are the funny things. So these are on the main A30. They've broken through the fence. They're now on the main A30 leading into Cornwall, and there is lots of traffic. That's busy old traffic, and these are popping out, and they could cause serious issues. You hit one of those, it's like hitting a brick wall. And they tend to mobile brick walls and motorways and dual carriageways is not very healthy. So, and I just thought, wow, there's two of them here. So I literally jumped on them and grabbed one each. And then it was like, well, what do I do with them now? And I said to my mate, quick, grab this one. I thought this is an opportunity for a selfie. And then, of course, I know this is rural crime for you. But then this is this little fellow. I became the Swan liaison officer, and I know people are thinking about a certain comedy police hot fuzz thing going on. I had two of these in the back of my car with this with his head looking between the seats at me, and they're just like a big. They hiss a lot and they look angry and they cannot break a man's arm. I'm quite sure of it, which is what the common accusation of. But those are the strangest jobs. But I did. They think the motorway is a river, so they land on it and they can get injured, or they just can't take off again with all the cars around them. And so, yeah, I fell over, but it looked like a combat role where I fell on this stuffed chicken and picked it up, and I went, oh, I've got it now, right? Okay, shoved it in the back of the car and drove off. And I dropped it off at the little village, and there was an old man over his stick like that. And he just looked at the police car go in, drop this. Have a photo with the swan, and I reversed off, and I went, present from the Queen, and he went, right. So, yeah, so little surreal moments like that, good fun. Oh, right. Have you ever to deal with anything? Oh, yeah, off duty. My wife always says, you always have to see stuff. Why do you have to? What's the policy on this in the police officer? Well, as you're a police officer, you have all the powers that you had to have as a special as well. All the powers as a police officer on and off duty. And you are expected to assist where you need to within reason. Okay, so if, it would not look good, and quite rightly so, you're not the right person for the job if there is someone getting attacked by some yob and you're off duty police officer and you decide, no, I'm off duty, it's nothing to do with me. So yeah, you would be expected to act accordingly. Everything's got to be achievable, yeah. So it's a bit like that one there. I checked to see if he'd got a gun. If they had a gun, and then I'm not going to be a dead hero, it's stupid. I'd be trying to get as much description evidence as I could, and then probably try to run him over. I don't know, but so yeah, I mean, road accidents, I would always just stop to see if there's someone knows what they're doing. And inevitably, it was. Road accidents, it's like, right, out, back. My wife was saying, you can't go anywhere without getting involved in stuff. And I didn't generally look at it. I was just unlucky. Just attractive stuff. But if somebody was smoking pot down the road, I wouldn't even mention it. It's not, I have got a life. I'm off duty. I'm not looking out for, and if somebody's, doing a, I mean, I did find myself shouting at people on mobile phones quite a lot. They just annoyed me because I realised what it leads to. You see the end results. Okay, so that's a good question. How long have you been in the police before you can join the special units like such as firearms? Well, it took about 8 years for me. Nowadays, after 2 years, if you can really start applying now. After your initial. You can apply for anything after your probation period. There's a probation period where they can get rid of you very easily because it just works out. It's not. But usually the vetting process is so good that usually if you make it that far, you should be okay as long as you work hard and you don't do what someone did and start nicking food from the canteen and getting out without paying. Why would you do that? They just joined the police, and they're nicking food from the canteen. I just, but you'll get some idiot does that. But then it's good. They're weeded out, aren't they? Because if they're prepared to do that, what else are they prepared to do? What happens when they're going to sudden death and an elderly person and there's a fiver on the table? What are you going to do then? So, yeah. I think realistically, 4 or 5 years from the day you join, you could really start thinking about. But you don't want to go too early, especially if you've got 34 years ahead of you, because what are you going to do for the rest of it? You don't want to go too early because you can. The more experience as the frontline response officer, the better specialist officer you'll be. I always knew, you see, when I was never scared of a job because, first of all, I wasn't too ashamed to ask. And it was better if I could ask someone who'd been in 15 months, then I'd say, how do I do this? Well, first of all, they were surprised that the ARV sergeant wasn't telling them to do it for them. Secondly, I wanted to know what it was like because I wanted to go through that little system of the interview or going through the custody again. Because when I realised what a waste of time it was in certain aspects and things needed to be, I could talk with some credibility. And so I could go to the superintendent and say, boss, I went to custody the other day. I got a drink driver who was sober by the time he got to the 2.5 hour thing. He's back on the street. What if he kills someone tomorrow? I said, we need to streamline for whoever it is, response, traffic, ARV, whoever needs to streamline. And those sorts of things can then get, but PCs can moan about that. They shouldn't be, but it could be sort of ignored a bit more as just, rumblings along. But if a sergeant says it and it's someone that they work with on firearms jobs and all that, they go, yeah, sounds right. We'll have a look at that. But of course, the danger of that is like the ARV has the drink driver and comes in. It's like, right, it's us. We're very important. Move aside. That's the danger, isn't it? That's the danger. So, but yeah. Right, West Mercia, dual rolled for ARVs. Oh, are they? Okay. Dual rolled with roads policing, dedicated. Is this similar to this? Yes. Do they only have ARVs doing roads policing? No. So they had traffic. Traffic there used to be lots of traffic officers. When Theresa May, bless her, decided it would be really good with a few other people to cut policing because all the police dealt with was crime and crime was going down. Yeah. Then what they did, they got rid of police stations because they desperately tried to keep feet on the ground. They then had to get rid of all the family silver, that sort of thing. And then they were thinking, well, we got to save wages. Wages is how do we do it? So, okay, we'll get rid of all the police officers who've done their 30 years, who wanted to stay on, because a lot of cops are 30 years and they've got 8-year-old children. One of our previous chiefs, he retired after 30 years. He's got an 8-year-old child, it's the modern world, isn't it? So, and all that experience and knowledge, and they were getting binned. I don't know about the chief was on that reason, but lots of PCs were getting binned and binned, and all that experience gone. And yeah, so the next thing to go was the traffic, because we've got ARVs, they're dual rolled, they can take over. So traffic went to literally pretty much zero, single figures, and now they've started to build it up again. They always knew they were really important. They always knew that they had a specific role. So they will then tend to deal with, they'll do the family liaison stuff with fatalities, whereas the ARVs won't now. The ARVs are, the traffic will tend to do more pre-planned jobs as well as the spontaneous, as the collisions, road collisions. They're obviously the pursuits and things, but you need something that is a little bit more you can rely on instead of, because too many times, well, we need a traffic car for that. And then the ARVs were like, we need them for this job. This job's kicking off now. So there's definitely a place for all, without a doubt. And there's real mutual respect between the two. I mean, they would never admit that, but there is, Very suspicious. Right, I think we're 6 minutes left, guys and girls. Please, can you do me a massive favour, because it really helps. I'm nearly getting up to 2,000 subscribers. If you could subscribe, I think there's a bell there. Might not be that you can choose to be allowed to be informed when there's something else gone. And just let me know what you want on there, what you want on the video on, or I've got stacks of old photographs that I've done, especially from tweets and things like that I can dig out again. I've got a massive network of really good people all across. So I can get the latest information for whatever forces and things like that. And I only mean the best. I'm not here to slag off things and whatever. It's genuine. It's too much good work being done out there. What's the most dangerous firearms and weapons job that you went to? I think probably where I thought I was going to die. But in fairness, to be honest, there's a lot. Is the couple of times where I thought, oh, this is it. I'm going to have to shoot him, and that's going to be a very long inquest, and everyone's going to say I murdered him, and I'm a very nasty person. But there's a saying that I said I prefer to be judged by 12 than carried by 6. But yeah, there was a couple of incidents there. Somebody was in prison, wanted to go back to prison, so he got a gun, he carjacked a car from a car salesman. And then we found him helicopter above, so it was all being videoed, and it was literally just watching him. And if he'd just done this, just that much, trigger, it was up, the tension was gone, and one extra little thing, and it was just the difference between, and he just threw the gun down. So there was a couple of instances like that, and there's an awful lot of very regularly where you got guns down and you're challenging, but people are all like, yeah, why, they don't want to play, and that's the most result, which is good. Probably the most things where I thought it was going well. I drove into a rave and they destroyed my car with me in it. I thought I shouldn't have done that. And literally, I'm looking for the rave. I go high ground, and I'm like, shit, there's all these people, and then the sea of people just closed behind me. I was in a Panda car at the time. I was in response. And then the car starts rocking, and they destroyed me. The windows went in, the blue light. I'm thinking I'm just running for the woods. And then what got me out of it is I bet a race with the ringleader, just separating. The ringleader from Manchester came, and he said, oh, what have you got in this car? Is it something, they give you something? I said, yeah, I'll give you a run for your money. And it was, I offered him a race. It was in this wasteland, it's a real wasteland area. And that's how I got out of it. And then got the public order in there, helicopters, and it was all good fun. But that's the time. There's a few times where you think, do you know what? This lot can do what the hell they like, and I won't know who's done it. That's the bits where you're a little bit, but don't let it worry you too much. It doesn't happen often. And look at me, I made it. What's this? Is this Horizon Cobra? I like the name. It's probably some sort of LSD tab, isn't there? No, nothing. So, evening, Harry. I've been watching you for a fair while. I'm sort of reading semi ahead in case someone's been really rude. Well, and to be fair, I'm not sure what my routes in the police should be, i.e. staying frontline or becoming an AFO. Then do. Right. So, I've been watching. Then stay frontline and get better at the basics. And when I say the basics are very skilled levels. Just get better with your safety, your searching, with your investigative skills, your interviewing. Get better at all that, because your assessments for ARVs they'll teach you how to shoot guns and do building entries and stuff. What they want to know is that they got the best basis to start off with, or have they got someone who goes, yeah, all right, mate, yeah, and he's face to face with someone who's got a knife in his back of his trousers, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's, do you get out your car and walk between your car and the car that is still engine running, where you could have got to? Just simple things like that. And when you do a search, do you do it properly? You search the person. Do you do it methodically? Do it with left posture so that you're ready to react, but you can step back instead of fall over, those sorts of things. That's what they're checking, and they're just checking to see. And then the more experience you get on frontliners, the more experience you'll be able to deal with a really aggressive person. So I'd often go into, for example, I'd go into a place and I'd be, James, can I just ask you to just calm down a bit? Just bring it down here. And they were like, blah, 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 blah. And I was calm as you like, I'd say, and I'd nicked this off a dog handler many years ago. I said, Please don't confuse my politeness as a weakness. I will stick you on your backside if I need to. Now, shall we start again? And that gives them a doorway to then go, oh yeah, and they'd be, oh yeah, all right, yeah, but I just did, and they'd be like that. But if you say no, wind it now, or I'm gonna nick you, that then, well, you try it if you want to, that it's these different ways now. Experience and being on the front line enough, and getting little nuggets from people around you, and you go, oh, that worked, and he's not a big lad, I'm not a big lad, I'm 12 stone, wearing my body armor and a gun on me, I look 20 stone, but. So yeah, I'd say don't rush, because if you join the ARVs or something, you've got to want it, because it's going to test every little sinew in your body. 16 years old and want to go into Kent Police. What do you recommend I do before I join? Practical stuff. Cadets. Work in a bloody charity shop if you can, all right? Get up front with the public, helping, so if it's voluntary, that sort of thing. Perfect. Getting air cadets. So you're out there with people your own age, but in a disciplined environment where you've got the opportunity to go and do things, especially when all this COVID thing is over. But in the meantime, you can learn really decent stuff. That's a good start. You're listening to some idiot like me, which is always a good start, because you'll remember one thing, hopefully, out of the 2 hours or whatever, and it might be of use. So by all means, play your computer games and do all the stuff that teenagers should do, but just do the other stuff as well, because some people, that's all they do. And so when they go into an interview and they say, well, what did you do? Well, what could I do? There's no jobs and all that. Well, you're not going to get very far. So, even if it's, because it's great for your CV, just do a Saturday afternoon in a charity shop, it's brilliant. It's one of the best things you could do to get yourself something there that you can say, look, I didn't sit on my ass, I did something, and now, and they'll love all that. And if you do Duke of Edinburgh, if you have that opportunity, do the Duke of Edinburgh. Duke of Edinburgh, the gold is worth about an A level, without a doubt, to employers. Okay, and I will answer this one very quickly, because what's your answer? PCSOs? Yeah, no. I think the reputation like that has gone now. I think PCSOs, they're doing more than they used to now, because they were very restricted in what they were able to do. They're doing a lot more paperwork now, which helps police officers. They have grown a base of intel and information, which is really useful to. And so a lot of police officers are going to PCSOs and saying, look, what do you know about this person now? So I think it's really good. I think the only trouble, I'll put it out there, I had an armed response officer who was a PCSO, and he said to me, do you know what, Sarge? He says, I've been in the police 5 years, and now I'm on the armed response doing building entries, vehicle interceptions, big responsibility, going to fatals. And he said, do you know what? I'm still on less money than when I left as a PCSO. Well, that is wrong. That is wrong, because he's now doing shifts. He's doing night shifts, day shifts, early shifts. So I'm not saying PCSOs should be paid less. I'm saying PCs at the lower level should be paid more. And there's another argument there: do you pay ARVs more? They sort of things, but technically, as you do more training, you do less night shifts. Therefore, you get paid less than a standard PC on the front line. That's what it is. You lose about 300 quid. So they give a lump sum to make up for that. That was happened in the last year. Do I want specialist officers to get paid more? Not really, because it could attract someone who needs the money as opposed to wants to do the job. So that's that one. Best free advice ever. I'm glad something there was good. That was it. Thank you, Andrew. And look, I'm going to say this is my last one. It's going to be Tropicalian. You get just popping in. Why don't you? And saying hi. Good. It's an awesome to see you around. But I last met you in Police Cadets when you were showing the far side of. Hey, beauty. Good. There's quite a few police cadets from your era now that have really been gotten to specials and then or just gone straight into the police as well. So it is fantastic, and it's just great to do that in the community as well, isn't it? You're doing something positive and gets you out of the house, a bit of fresh air, and you can use it for a CV for your employers, because employers love the fact that you don't mind getting a bit dirty and tired and a bit cold sometimes. It means that you can persevere, you can get to the end of a problem, you can see it through, rather than and yet we still need people who are academic bookworms. We need those in the police as well. Horses for courses. Do you know what? It's been emotional. Thank you so much. I was a little bit worried that nobody would turn up, and I'm thinking there's still 45 people, so this is that's a really good thing for just YouTube. I do a frontline chat, which is on a different channel. It's called hashtag Frontline Chat with Dave Wardell, and we do a weekly chat on a Saturday, and we sometimes have a guest. He's a serving dog handler. He was on Britain's Got Talent with his magic dog, and he's, more importantly, changed the law on animals and services animals because his dog got stabbed, and he wrote a brilliant book. But if you want to support my channel in any way, by all means, please, you can buy that on Amazon. You can get it on Audible. Yes, I spoke on it, and I think it's all right. It's not too much abuse on that. That's good. Ebook and paperback, and it's sort of each chapter is something different, so you can pick it up and drop it. But I'm slightly embarrassed at the very nice things people have been saying about that. And you know, when your ex-colleagues and people who've retired say, no, actually, good book, I'm like, because the last thing you want to do in it is make an idiot himself in front of people like that. So thank you very much. Thank you, Kyle. And we're nearly there, guys and girls. We're nearly there. Let's get through this bloody COVID thing. We can do it. We can do it. Come on, we can do it. Thank you ever so much, folks. I'm going to finish with, oh look, see this? I got there. There's my Twitter one. I'll stick there. There's my Twitter, XARVSGT, and there's a subscribe to my channel. There's all this gear. You know, can you tell I haven't got a production team here? I know, it's amazing. But guys and girls, it's been emotional. So thank you very much indeed. I've got to turn that off, and I'm going to boot it out, and I'm going to say goodbye to you. I'll see you at the next one. Subscribe, please subscribe to me. It's only half the people who look at this stuff subscribe, and it's so important. And I get paid a tiny amount for the advertising. And at the moment, I've been doing this. You can see there's about 60 videos on there from the time I started. I don't do it for the money, because I've made £6.72 or something right up to now on it. But obviously, the more subscribers, the more I get paid. So that'd be quite useful. So I don't do it for the money. It's just quite nice to, you know, people put themselves out to help me when I was much younger, and I think I enjoy talking to you guys. It's that as well. Nice one. Right, I really will say goodbye now. Bye.